Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Nina Steele-Welford, and I am pleased to welcome you to Cohasset Candidates Night, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Hingham. Many thanks to Wilcutt Commons for hosting us this year and to 143 TV for taping this. It will be shown on 143 TV and available as a YouTube after this within a few days. So feel free to share it after that. It will also be on the League of Women Voters website and various other places, Cohasset 143 and the Facebook and all the rest. So feel free to share with your friends and encourage them to watch it. The League of Women Voters of Hingham is an active group that includes members like me from Cohasset, Hull, and Weymouth. Could other members of the League who are here raise your hands so that we can, and Elizabeth, okay, so our annual meeting will be held this year in Cohasset at the Lightkeepers Association on May 20th. So please consider joining us then or speaking to one of us now if you want to learn more about the League. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages citizens to take an active and informed role in government. We do not support or oppose particular candidates or political parties. Instead, we study issues that are important to concerned citizens. We agree by consensus on positions on an issue, and then we educate and advocate for those positions at the local, state, and national levels. We also work to get out the vote, knowing that democracy depends on each of us to use our voice. Candidates Night, held in towns across the region, are part of that educational mission. Tonight's forum focuses on the two contested races in this year's elections in Cohasset for Planning Board and Library Trustees. But we'd like to thank everyone who is committed to running for all of the offices in our town government. We're really grateful to all of you for stepping up. We need it. League rules state that the moderator must not be a resident of our town, so it's my pleasure to introduce Elizabeth Foster Nolan, who is a Weymouth resident and past president of the State League of Women Voters of Massachusetts. She'll explain the format of the evening, introduce the candidates, and then get to the questions. So, Elizabeth.
Thank you. Good evening. As she said, I'm not a member, and I'm not a member of the Hingham League of Women Voters. I'm actually a member at large. So I'm affiliated more with the State League because we are very conscientious about making sure that our moderators do not reside in the town or belong to the league in the town that is sponsoring any of these forums. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is basically go through the rules. All the candidates received these rules and agreed to them prior to joining us here this evening. Everybody will have a seat up here when it comes time. We only have two. We have the library board and we have the planning board right now. So you will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 1 minute for your closing statement, and 2 minutes to answer each question. There is no rebuttal time, as this is an informational forum and not a true debate. Opening statements will be done in the following order. Mr. Denuno will be first, and Ms. Schmidt-Weische will go second. The order is based on a random draw that was held earlier tonight. And then the first question will go again to Mr. Denuno, and then that again was done by a random drawing, and then we'll go back and forth. Even though it seems like it's easy for two, if I screw up, correct me so that you go in the right direction. Down front here, two lovely ladies, key people, timers. You will have, when you have 2 minutes, you'll have a 1 minute warning, a 30-second warning, and a 15-second warning. Oh, and then a stop, excuse me. Please wrap up when you see the stop card. I won't stop you mid-sentence, but I will, if you go too far, I will say thank you and we will move on. And personal references about other candidates are out of order. And as has already been said, this is being recorded and will be available between when they upload it and the election. So please let folks know who couldn't be here tonight. It's going to be good information for folks. So for those of you in the audience, thank you for joining us. And again, anything that makes a sound, please mute it, turn it off so that we don't have the interruptions for that. There is no video recording of this or audio recording of this. This belongs to the league, it goes up. So we ask that people not do it and put it anywhere else because you'll have availability on 143. And we request that you treat all candidates fairly. Please remain quiet during this. No clapping, cheering, calling out, etc. At the end of each one, more than happy to thank the candidates and clap them for their participation. And don't have to worry about it. There is no campaign literature in here. We don't have to tell people to turn their shirts inside out or anything like that. So with that, we are going to start with the planning board. So the planning board seat is for a 5-year term for the planning board for the seat formerly occupied by Tom Callahan. So what I'm going to do is ask you guys to start and introduce yourselves and do your opening statement. Mr. DeNuno.
Good evening. My name is Nino DeNuno. Oh, go with the
Yep,
thing.
go right in.
I'm the president of DeNuno Construction in Cohasset, running for a seat on the planning board because I believe it's time for a more practical, balanced approach to land use regulation in our community. Over the past few years, we've seen well-intentioned changes to the ledge removal bylaws and subdivision control rules, but in practice, some of these changes have added unnecessary layers of review and bureaucracy on projects that have little to no impact on the public. As someone who works closely with residents and clients navigating these regulations, I've seen firsthand how these policies can cost people time, money, and sometimes even the ability to move forward on their own property. I'm not running to eliminate oversight. I'm running to make sure it's targeted, efficient, and fair. Our bylaws should protect the public interest without punishing property owners or small developers for routine work. I want to be a voice on the board for common sense, for cutting through red tape, and for helping people get things done without unnecessary delay.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and thanks for the League of Women Voters for providing me the opportunity to speak to you about my planning board candidacy. My name is Birgit Schmidt-Wiesche. Over the past 30 years, my family and I have lived in different places in the US and the UK before we moved to Cohasset 7 years ago. I'm originally from Hamburg, a big port city in Germany, and I'm incredibly happy to be back by the sea. My professional background is in IT. I have a PhD in computational linguistics and worked with IBM for more than 30 years developing chatbots. I retired in 2023. I joined the Cohasset Planning Board as an associate member last year. I love this town. I fully support the Planning Board's mission of preserving and protecting Cohasset, but without preventing the reasonable development of land. Now, this balanced approach is not always easy, but it is an important goal. I strongly believe that in addition to beautiful large homes, we need more units that fit the need of moderate-income residents and that are in keeping with Cohasset's small-town character. I'm also the Planning Board's liaison to the Open Space and Recreation Committee. It is important that the Planning Board collaborate with this and other committees and boards for an integrated and holistic approach for serving Cohasset's community. And it is important that Planning Board members be unbiased and not have a financial interest in the matters coming before the board. During the past year, I was actively involved in updating the sections of the Cohasset bylaw that were adopted at our town meeting in December 24. I'm currently acting as the 5th member of the board with the right to vote and to implement the ideas that I co-authored. And I would love to continue this work, and I'm asking for your support and your vote on May 17th.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the question portion of this evening for you folks. And again, we will begin with you, Mr. DeNuno. If you need me to repeat the question, just ask me.
Here.
What inspired you to run for a full member position on the planning board, and what unique perspective or experience would you bring to the role?
So I was inspired by my experience with the planning board on approvals on my development side, as well as my private client side. I've just seen with these recent adoptions of the expansion of the ledge bylaws that it's really, bringing unnecessary costs to homeowners. Not everybody in town has a $8 million house. They might just want to put a pool in their backyard. And, the new ledge bylaw is now, if there's any ledge, even in your backyard, out of public view, you have to go before the planning board. So this means an application fee, you're hiring an attorney, you're hiring a civil engineer, and it's just a unnecessary cost. They never wrap up in one hearing. It's several hearings, and it's just a burden that's unfair to some of the people in town that just want to do something simple on their own property that's out of view of the public. I think my experience with a lot of Cohasset residents and properties in town would help, bring that point of view to the board, which is currently lacking. I think a lot of people on the board are either lawyers or professors or have other backgrounds. Mine specifically deals with planning and zoning every day of the week. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was really basically inspired by this beautiful town. It's a wonderful town, a wonderful sea town. It does have a wonderful topography, and it was mainly that seeing that there have been quite special developments where it looks not too nice to the entire kind of keeping of this topography of the town. So it's not so much saying that we don't have we shouldn't have large homes to be developed. What I'm kind of trying to get at, and I think we did pretty good job with our bylaws so far, is to get a balance between respecting the environment and also being creative in building my kind of specific hometown. And this creativity, as I said in my intro as well, we may have to work across the board, not only the planning board, but see whether we can collaborate with zoning in getting some leeway here or there in order to make a creative development possible. So this is basically my inspiration.
Thank you. We'll begin with you for our next question. How would you balance development with preservation of the town's character and natural resources?
I already kind of started to hint at that in my previous answer. We have to get creative. There is not much more land to be developed. I asked John Helen, and I think there's basically everything now kind of underdeveloped or has been developed, and we can only look at subdividing lots to get ahead in that respect. But I think if we just go back to where we were maybe decades ago, where houses were built around the ledges, and it was perfectly fine, and we have lots of houses like that where people are actually happy to have that and are proud of having that in their basement. This is kind of like the aspect for the larger homes along kind of specifically our ledge-based topography, but for developing in other areas, we also need to see whether we could be a little bit more lenient with developing multiple multi-family dwellings, and not only kind of huge kind of humongous apartment buildings, but two family buildings and we'll have them interwoven with the rest of the community, so that it leads more to integrate in a coherent view.
Thank you.
Would you mind repeating?
Not at all.
Thank you.
How would you balance development with preservation of the town's character and natural resources?
Thank you. I think, again, going back to personal experience with the planning board, as a developer, I think having a more common sense approach. We did the development. It was a hot topic in town on Black Horse Lane. We were pushed by the planning board to do a big, asphalt runway of a subdivision where the roadway leading it is only 9 feet wide. It caused us to tear down 76 trees. And we had a more practical solution to do a common driveway, which are all over the town. It's part of the quaintness of the town. You might have to pull over and stop and wave to your neighbor once in a while, but it really does help lessen the impact to the environment. So I think just having a more common sense approach to, reading the bylaws and how you apply them, and maybe sometimes, coming up with a more creative solution to a project. I think, protecting the ledge in town is great. I think we should adopt a more similar approach to Hingham Historic, where, you're looking at it from a public view corridor, versus something in somebody's backyard on their own private property.
Thank you. Our next question, Mr. DeNuno. What is your understanding of Cohasset's current master plan, and are there any specific areas you believe should be updated or prioritized?
I think, the challenge of the new districting with the MBTA and trying to get affordable housing is probably, one of the bigger challenges Cohasset has. And with not a lot of developable land available, I think that's something, a lot of people in town could get together and try to solve.
Thank you.
Not so much, kind of like change, but kind of master plan does have quite a number of references to a more, kind of integrated approach, and to have more moderate income residents incorporated into the planning. So like right now, it's pretty known that lots of people have a hard time buying a house here in Cohasset first time, or if they want to downsize, it is also kind of pretty difficult to find the right place. The master plan kind of did specify quite a number of sections pointing to that area, and I think that's one thing where we should start to be kind of really creative and finding areas where we can implement this. And as I said, not so much kind of creating multi-family housing ghettos in one corner of the town, but to kind of see how we can kind of weave our way from the train station, kind of via the 3A corridor, kind of into town, so that it's really going to be a more coherent view, and that includes transportation as well. So this is kind of the area that I appreciate most of the master plan.
Thank you. The next question, Ms. Schmidt. Knew I was going to screw it up.
No, you didn't figure.
How would you approach community input on planning decisions, especially when there's strong disagreement among residents or between residents and developers?
I am a strong believer in working with the community and asking questions and having forums where we can learn what the community really wants. And obviously, kind of we can never, kind of 100% agree on anything, but we can at least, kind of hear and then implement what the best solution as a compromise could be. It's Can you ask the question again?
Sure. How would you approach community input on planning decisions, especially when there's strong disagreement among residents or between residents and developers?
I think we also, so like this was, kind of my first part was asking questions and getting input, but we should just as well have a push mechanism of explaining why we are doing certain things or why we would like to have certain things done this or that way. And this maybe, kind of at some points be the reason for misunderstanding, kind of not understanding why was this particular move motivated. And so we do have our, kind of open meetings. Every planning board meeting is open and everybody can join, but that is for specific cases to be heard. And apart from that, we are present at the town meetings, but it's probably more, kind of like have an interactive approach, especially since we know that we have different views on, for example, ledge or multifamily.
Thank you.
I think it's important to the decision the planning board makes to hear the public, hear the neighbors. They're gonna, be part of the process throughout it. I think the planning board should, make sure that they limit it to what is in the planning board's purview. A lot of time you let the public join in and it sort of goes off into conservation or zoning, and these hearings are long enough, and I think it can really extend the night. So I think when it's vital to the conversation, it's crucial, but I think keeping it on topic is key.
Thank you. Next question. What are your thoughts on affordable housing in Cohasset? How can the planning board support responsible and inclusive growth while preserving the town's identity? Mr. DeNuno.
That's the toughest question of the night. Where do you put it? I don't know. I think, it's something we need to do. It's part of the state program. I think we just have to be creative and try to find a way to accommodate that. I don't have the answer for that one.
We are good right now, right? We have our 10%. But it's also a question of keeping it at that level and seeing opportunities of where else to insert, affordable housing in addition to reasonably priced housing. Kind of we have to have, kind of definitely the affordable one. We are currently, kind of really looking forward to the development that is going to be done in the village where Haj used to have his garage. That will also include two units, which are affordable. And we've looked at the plans and they look very promising. We had also recently along it's Pleasant Street, right? Pleasant Street, that one in Hatton, affordable housing, and I think in that vein we can do more. There is kind of what I was alluding to, kind of trying to have an integrated architecture, not kind of single houses, but to have kind of what is the town architecture looking like? Kind of how can we get from the train station to the village, not only transportation-wise, but kind of integrating our housing, kind of towards having kind of this more integrated view. And along that, I'm pretty sure that we can have more affordable housing like we have up in Avalon, but I don't want this ghetto thinking. So we can get creative there, and I'm pretty sure that we can. I have one more idea to that. How many more seconds do I have? I don't. Sorry.
Okay. You begin the next question, so.
Okay, maybe I can not answer the question and get my last point.
Can you discuss a time you've worked collaboratively on a project or in a leadership role, particularly where compromise or long-term vision was required?
Well, I worked in IT for 30 years. So this is every single project is a give and take, and you have to be kind of firm to the point. And I used to, as I said, I'm a computational linguist. I used to work on the user interface corner, where a developer usually doesn't understand anything about. And so you have to bridge this say experience gap, not knowledge gap, experience gap. And I think, kind of once you get real users in front of the systems to test, you can be, kind of heard a little bit better, and you need to design your tests such that the developers get it, and so on. So, yes, kind of those types of projects I had a lot. And since I'm going to be mean now, since I do in a minute, I wanted answering the last question. I just recently read something in the Boston Globe that in Boston they are starting to think about a concept, buying with your bestie, and this is something that I think would also be a very good idea of getting away from kind of like this multi-family thing, but just kind of have 2 or 3 or 4 parties and build smaller units of houses, and that way we can kind of slowly get from one point to the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeNuno.
Would you mind repeating?
Sure.
Sorry, I got off track.
Can you discuss a time you've worked collaboratively on a project or in a leadership role, particularly where compromise or long-term vision was required?
Yeah, I would say almost every project we do. It's, we work with some of the most talented architects in our area. So, we get on board with our clients sometimes years in advance. For instance, the Cohasset Wharf project, we're in our 2nd year of construction, but our 4th year of planning and setting up for that project. I think there was a lot of compromise with the town and the owner, myself, and sort of just always being able to change on a whim and come up with a better solution even mid-construction brings some pretty good experience to that.
Thank you. Our next question. How do you see the planning board's role in addressing sustainability and climate resilience in future development projects? We'll start with you, Mr. Mino.
So I think I used the example earlier of a development where, the bylaws on subdivision control outweighed the environmental impact on a very large 10-acre development. I think being able to compromise on situations like that would help quite a bit.
Thank you.
I think it's very important there that it's not only a planning board issue, but we are kind of across the board faced with it, and we have all had kind of the experience and impact over 11 plus flood and tide, and the working together with the harbor committee, working together with the abutters that are directly affected is key in these areas. And if you want to learn more about the harbor committee, you have to come back here tomorrow night and listen to their presentation.
Thank you. Okay, you guys can take a deep breath. We have one more question, and then your closing statements. So just like to give you the heads up that it's almost over. So for our last questions, what do you believe are the most pressing planning or zoning challenges Cohasset will face over the next 5 to 10 years? And we will start with you.
Yeah, I think to integrate. Yeah, I mean we zoned out for the MBTA, and that's a great first start. But we've done a number of rezoning recently to make it more, kind of coherent and consistent, and consolidated very wisely, I think. But it's still, I'm kind of like the here and the there. So this is kind of, I'm getting back to that point quite often, that I think we have to think of, get away from, kind of how can we serve the single house only, but kind of much more, how can we integrate kind of the single house with the next door neighbors, with the entire community. And here we have to have kind of our greatest creativity applied to make that happen, to keep developing, but to stay as kind of a lovely small town character, kind of Cohasset. So,
Thank you.
I think it's the biggest challenge is the lack of developable lots left, and then allowing property owners to continue to develop what they can on their own lots. I think the passage of the ADU by right was huge for that. See a lot of people moving, their parents or grandparents in with them. That was a big step to helping with that issue, and allowing people to buy smaller homes on tighter lots, and to be able to get a decent sized family in there. Sometimes you need to increase the footprint on that, add some more space, and just having a understanding of that and letting it happen a little bit more than it currently does.
Thank you. Well, we are now at the point where we're going to move to closing statements. You have 1 minute for your closing statements. And again, the timers will keep you on track. And we are doing these in the opposite order of the opening. So we will begin with you, Van.
thank you. So thank you very much for your questions tonight, and I promise to continue to listen to your needs and ideas when it comes to planning for Cohasset. Now, with better tools for sewer and waste management, for lead removal, more land can be developed, but we still need to preserve Cohasset's unique ledge-based topography. The other challenge lies in balancing between building new large homes while preserving Cohasset's small town character. Smaller houses, some multifamily housing, and businesses that fit this small town profile. And during the past year, I participated in redesigning Cohasset's bylaws that will support these efforts. And I promise to follow these rules. I'm ready to step up for a full membership. And with that, I very much hope that I will receive your vote on May 17 to serve for the next 5 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I did not prepare a closing statement, so thank you all very much. It was very good. Thank you for the opportunity to answer some questions. I think just being able to do this tonight and bring a different view to the planning board if elected would be good for the town. I know we have a lot of different viewpoints, but I think you're great and you can't lose here. So thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you both very much for stepping up to run. As they say, it starts local. And we do really appreciate you stepping up to do that. And thank you very much. And just a quick reminder, again, 2 minutes for opening statements, 2 minutes to answer questions, 1 minute for closing statement. Your lovely ladies in the front row will keep you on track with the 1 minute, 30 seconds, and stop. So just keep those in mind. So without further ado, we will begin. And we will begin with the opening statements. And we will begin with you, Ms. Breslau.
Well, good evening, and thank you for coming. I had dental procedures done this morning, so I wasn't sure I'd be able to make it here. So if I'm muffling, just shout out and have me be more clear if I can be. the reason I'm here, especially after dental procedures this morning, is just this sense of democracy is more important than ever. And so my feeling to have and share ideas and have people be heard and is vital. And it's no coincidence that I speak as a part library trustee, where the role of the public library has never been more important in terms of rapid changes that are occurring in our communities and our world, shifting technologies. In an era of divisive politics, there always is a safe place in the library to come and get factual information. My job here tonight is really easy because being a library trustee has been nothing short of miraculous. We have, under the stewardship of this current library director, we have really progressed from just being a books depository to a place where it has become a community hub, a place where all are welcome, and it is really my privilege to be part of that. Thank you. I'm Elaine Breslow, by the way.
Thank you. Ms. Mendenhall.
I'm Melissa Mendenhall. I am not currently on the board of the trustees for the library. Or I'm not a trustee of the library right now, so I'm obviously running for this position newly. I've lived in Cohasset for about 15 years, and I've definitely, benefited from the fact that the library is a hub for the community in that time period. I have 2 young children, and so even before they were born, but especially since, I would say the library is probably where we go, second only to our home in town. So whether it's Mama Steph when they were younger, or reading, going for reading in the library, getting book recommendations from Mrs. Moody as they got older, spending time in the teen room. I've used the library when I have no internet at home and I need to use a conference room. I'm a passionate reader and have been for my entire life. And usually when we travel with kids, and it's not big vacations, right? It's just a trip someplace. We would go to the local public library and find a reading hour where we went. So I'm a huge, passionate user of the library. I agree that there's a lot of our institutions that I think are under attack, and that I think, a lot of people don't have the same level of passion and commitment to some of the institutions that I think are really important to our democracy, to our ability to get good factual information. And so I think it's really important, and have been looking for an opportunity to give back, especially to, I think, an organization that I feel so passionately about. And so I think it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to spend more time getting more involved in the community and helping the library to fulfill its mission and vision.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susan Hobson-Putziger. I'm also running for one of the non-incumbent positions for the Library Board of Trustees. I graduated from Cohasset High School 100 years ago. My children also then graduated from Cohasset High School, and then today I found my library card from 1972, a treasured possession, because like you, the library for me was a safe place and also a place where I could find answers back before the internet. So it's a very, very special place to me. Currently, I'm the vice president of the Cohasset Historical Society, and I'm on the property committee of the First Parish in Cohasset. And this position would round all that out very nicely. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Viteri.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for having me and for including me today. Thank you to Elaine, Melissa, and Susan for running. It's important, and I'm glad I sense the passion here, so I'm really excited about that. And I also want to acknowledge my friend Sarah Pease, who is stepping down from the board after 3 decades. So that's a big commitment she's made, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge her today. Listen, I love libraries, and I'm not a reader. So I will tell you the most controversial thing you're going to hear tonight is that libraries aren't about books. They're about community, about safe spaces. I was a kid from LA, a Latino kid from LA, who was a latchkey kid at the age of 8. And I often went to the library after school with my friends or by myself to just find a safe space to do some homework, escape the rain, whatever. And so for me, that's the motivating factor for loving libraries and for living, in any community that I've lived in. I come to this role as a father, as an entrepreneur, as a small business person, and I think it offers a bunch of opportunities for different parts of the community, and I think that's so magical about the library. Creating community, I think, is in having programming that speaks to different parts of the community. And it shouldn't be about all things to all people. It should be about things that unite different parts of the community. One of the stories I love the most is actually before I joined, there was a program that I think 15 people attended, and it was about families who had kids with autism. And there were 15 people who were kind of going down a similar path in community, and that's the kind of community and kind of programming that I think is important, things that unite people and create community, create safe spaces and discussion and discourse. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move on to the question portion. And Ms. Mendenhall, we will begin then with you. If you need me to repeat a question, feel free to ask. So, the library's website states, the Paul Pratt Memorial Library has 9 trustees who are elected for staggered 3-year terms. The trustees are not only advocates for Cohasset's public library, but are also responsible for the oversight of the library's operations, establishing policies and plans, and determining the library's annual budget. Is there one of these roles, advocacy, operations, policies and plans, or budget, where you have particular expertise or interest? Please explain.
Sure. I would say for me, it would be both policies and plans, but also budget. So for my background, so I work full-time. I am an MBA, and so I was a finance and economics major in undergrad. So, I work in business. I work in investing in particular. So I have also a background in strategic planning, working for companies like Dunkin' Brands, where, again, it's sort of consumer-facing type companies, large global companies, right, where I think it's really important to have a strategic plan and understand how you plan to grow, how you plan to reach your customers. And so and also sort of the project management aspect of that in terms of not only it's great to have a goal, but without a plan, it's just a wish. And so being able to put plans into motion to be able to get the outcomes that you want. I work as an investor, so I'm a portfolio manager, so working with the finances and also making sure, I think the endowment is an important part of how the library has funding to do all that it does and all the programs that help make it such a special place. And I also worked in investment consulting, working with endowments and foundations, so, have a great understanding of kind of the operating plans and how important it is to understand, the sources of your returns that you have, what sort of outflows that you have to make sure that they stay solvent and the endowments are growing over time. And so I think I would be really interested in participating and making sure that, the library has a, strong source of income for a very long period of time.
Thank you. Ms. Putziger.
I don't have a lot of experience in that regard, but I have done a lot of work with the Cohasset Historical Society, bringing projects to completion on a budget. And I am a big fan of a stated project with big goals. And I think I'd be tenacious about getting something brought completely to the end on budget.
Thank you. Mr. Viteri.
So the library sits on Ripley and Sawyer, which is kind of the hub of town, right? It's where the schools are, where the music circus is, where the pool is, where the senior center is. It's, where education where education meets fun, right? It's where entertainment meets, where experience, right, meets youth. I think it's a really interesting part of the town. So I think that the library is about people and experiences, and it's about making sure that it remains relevant as we move into a new digital era. So I think my role, to answer the question actually, is about helping, kind of understanding what the future of the library could be. I think we've done a really great job of moving from the past into the current century. I think we could do a better job of being a bigger part of the community. So I think there's some lessons to be learned from commercial businesses. There's lessons to be learned from other charities or other organizations, nonprofit organizations that we can benefit from. I think that's the kind of work that I would like to do. helped work on the strategic plan this past year, and I think we're doing a great job against it, and I think I'd like to continue to do that work.
Thank you.
So I am an attorney by trade. Don't fault me for that. And so part of, in addition to what I call like the civic human aspects of being a library trustee, you're often called upon to look at and reevaluate policy. We're often, it's such a beloved institution in our town that it doesn't run by itself, but it almost feels like it runs by itself. But yet things come up and things need attention, and then things are sensitive in this climate. And so it requires really some thoughtful discussion, some looking at language to make even a safe place like the library safe for its staff, for people who enter, for the director, for the community at large. And so my skill set, I think, in addition to just the fun part, which it is fun, as Alex mentioned, and it's so important as we grow this community hub, is also to be mindful of those things that don't take care of themselves and that you need a critical eye to pay attention to. And they're not always comfortable. But as a group, we've really come to a meeting of the minds after hearing what the community has brought forward. And I hope that we will continue to do that.
Thank you. So now we have a little handout for each of you.
You'll be familiar.
That will be related to your next question. We didn't want to do a gotcha. We wanted you to see this information. So I'm going to give you a minute to read that before I ask the question.
That's up. She was.
Oh, this isn't fair. Alex wrote this. I'm teasing.
With me.
So for the audience and those who will be viewing this on cable when they are putting it out several times, this is from, what they're reading right now is from the library's website. And it is their strategic plan, the master plan for them. And there are two specific areas, strengths and weaknesses, that have been identified on the library website that I'm asking them to look at right now. And you will see with the question why we gave it to them ahead of time to look at and not have a gotcha moment. I don't like gotcha moments. So, in 2023, the library trustees published a 5-year strategic plan. It identified a number of strengths and weaknesses, as you can see from the page in the report. Are you familiar with the strategic plan? And focusing on strengths, what do you love about Cohasset's library? What is most important to maintain? And we will be starting with Ms. Putziger.
Well, I don't think that I could pick anything specific from the strengths because they all seem vitally important. The children's programming, I think, is absolutely vital, given that I participated in it myself and my children robustly did back in the day. And the friendly and knowledgeable staff, and Miss Moody still figures prominently in our family memories. I like them all. I cannot choose.
That's okay. Mr. Viteri.
So I just want to say before I begin that the answers you've been hearing tonight and the profile of the four of us up here are different but extremely valuable. And I think that any of the members of this on the panel up here would be a great addition to the board. So I just want to say that I think it's a cool thing that we got a really cool different perspectives coming out here. Strengths. There are celebrities in this town, and Susan kind of hit on it a little bit. Mrs. Moody is our celebrity. There's no doubt about it, and she is, for generations, has been impacting the children of Cohasset. Now, there is, Bronwyn Nelson, who runs the libraries, that's the library director, Allison Devani, who's the young adult librarian, and Ashley Nelson, who is the CERC supervisor, who greets you with a smile every time you walk through the door. That idea of celebrity, that idea of having a face that says hello to you and that knows you and that builds community, that's like gold to me. And I think that's what I think is the coolest thing about the library, is this idea of connection to people as they walk through the door.
Awesome. Ms. Braceman.
I would also add that in addition to this robust children's programming, we have incredible staff at the moment and leadership of a director who has empowered and enabled the staff to come up with creative ideas, passionate ideas. And I have to say the programming itself has just blossomed in terms of attendance from the community. And we're talking about all demographics because, again, coming back to this place of this palace for the people, it is something that is so important to be able to, as Alex said, you can't be everything to everyone, but there is always something for someone at the library. And I would say just the ability for the staff to feel ownership from where they work and what they do has been instrumental in moving forward just some very creative, inspirational programming as a whole.
Thank you. Ms. Mendenhall.
So the question is just, can you repeat that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I doxed.
Because I was like, what's not to love about any of these things?
Yeah, as you can see from the page, are you familiar with the strategic
Yes.
plan? And focusing on strengths, what do you love about Cohasset's library? What is the most important to maintain?
Okay. I mean, all of these things, again, right, it was a SWOT analysis. I am familiar with the plan, or the plan that was online. So again, I think all of these things speak to so many things that make the library such an amazing place that it is right now. To talk on maybe some things that haven't been mentioned so far. I mean, you mentioned the location earlier, Adam, but I mean, when I was younger, when I wanted to go to the library, we had to drive there. I'm lucky I live in town in the village, and I mostly walk there if I can. So it's right it's a great location if people aren't aware of it, or you don't go to the library a lot. It's also, I think, located, within, there's been a lot of investment in town in terms of like parks and recreation and things like that. So the recreation department is kind of co-located with the library. There's a great playground behind the library. There's great basketball courts. So I think that the important thing is that there's so many things that can draw you in, right? You don't have to go to the library just because you're going to the library. You might be going to play basketball, and you can also stop in at the library, or going to the playground, and you can also go to the library. And so I think that would also maybe tie into interdepartmental relationships too, because I think it's really important that, the library is a hub for the town. And so I think it's really important to have great relationships with the Recreation Commission and the school committee, because I think you want to be able to bring people together for a lot of different reasons. And then I think that also probably ties into the creative, thoughtful, and diverse collection, right? It's not just books. There's a library of things. There's a ton of programming that goes in the library that people probably aren't even aware of. They do a great job getting some of that information by mailing it to your house, but there's just so many things happening at the library that I think, it just creates a real richness of community and so many things for people to do.
Great, thank you. Keep that paper handy. Our next question. From the plan's list of weaknesses, which would you emphasize to begin with? And we'll start with you, Mr. Veteran.
So there's two things. There's the part that I think I'm most passionate and most suited to help out, and then there's the part that we've been struggling with, which is having updated technology and having it consistently have the resources, whether it's laptops or whether it's active Wi-Fi. When the community goes down and the storm hits, we have to be a spot of information. We have to be a spot where Wi-Fi is accessible. We have to be up and live. We just have to be. And I think that's, to me, is an important space for resilience for the community and for the town, and to really drive a viable product. That said, I'm not a tech guy, so I'm more of a marketing guy, and I think that I could be most helpful on this idea of the library not being marketing driven enough. And I think the idea of there's so many cool things that are happening in this town that the library could be involved with. If they're the center of town, if we're committed to this idea of community, we should be the place where if you're new to town, when do I have to sign up for town sports, or what are the clubs around, or like whatever the issue may be, we should be that location. We should also be the when a new restaurant opens up, we should acknowledge that. We should be involved with things that are happening within the community. And I think we kind of need to think about partnerships and commercial partnerships a little bit better, not because we're trying to raise funds, but because we're just trying to become tighter within the community. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Ms. Breslow.
So for most municipalities, as well as our beloved own, some change moves at a glacial pace. And so, but having said that, the library has done a lot to bring ourselves, not, because we can't just individually say we need this, we need the town support, state support, etc. And so funding is a real issue. But we even have, if you come to our meeting rooms, we now have whiteboards that you can even have a Zoom conference with. The frustration is, as Alex said, our staff laptops were just defunct as of when? March or something?
Yeah.
And of all places, the library needs to be the resource where people can come and get questions answered or pointed in the right direction. So I would say that's one of the things that's important. But the other has been the paucity of large enough meeting spaces. And so I'm happy to say that we are really close to breaking ground on our pavilion project, which has been supported by so many members of the Cohasset community, intelligent funding by state grants, and so on and so forth. And so we really find the need to meet the people, the town, where they are. And we're hoping that this will extend that sense of grab a cup of coffee, grab a book, or just attend a program that's going to be on, the pavilion under the veranda, so to speak. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Mendenhall.
Sure. So just to play to my my knowledge base a little bit more, I would say that donation reliance to meet state financial standards is, there's obviously a lot of big projects going on at the library, which I think have been funded really creatively. There's still, I would say, and there's an endowment, which is wonderful. They're about to enter a period where there's going to be, I think, some economic uncertainty. There's obviously a lot of market volatility. I think a lot of endowments aren't going to have the purchasing power that they had before. And things are obviously not getting less expensive with what's going on with inflation. And that will impact building costs. It will impact labor costs and things like that. So, I think the library will continue to be successful if it's, has great, solid financial footing. And I think even some of these things related to maybe the meeting and program spaces and the footprint of the library, we just followed the planning board candidates, and there's not a lot of extra space, right? You can't move the library someplace else. You have to make the most of the space that you have and the footprint that you have. And to be able to have any changes to those, I think you need to be well capitalized to do so. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. Ms. Putziger.
So in my role as with the Cohasset Historical Society, what we struggle with there significantly is the knowledge of the library resources, the knowledge of the resources at the Cohasset Historical Society. So that is an area that I personally would want to concentrate on. And you were talking about partnerships. The Cohasset Historical Society has partnered with the library and the welcoming committee to try to welcome people to the town and to bring awareness to what these institutions can offer the citizens of Cohasset. So that would be mine.
Thank you. One more question on the plan. The plan includes a long list of high-impact action items categorized by cost, high, medium, and low. And the library is asking us to share our thoughts on potential federal cuts to library services, including funding to the library network that allows us to borrow books and resources from libraries across the state. How adequate is the library's current funding, and what would you do should funding fall short? We're going to start with you, Ms. Breslin.
So I mentioned the pavilion project, and I mentioned that, or didn't mention, but yet our children's carpeting is more than 20 years old and absolutely in dire need of ripped up and changed for the better. Having said that, we are having a meeting tomorrow about how we can creatively spend state funding that has been put aside year after year after year for these rainy day projects. And yet, given what you just mentioned, the cutbacks in state funding, can we be as generous as we would like to be in certain areas, but mindful about having to hold back because we don't really know what's coming down the pike. And so I can assure you that the trustees and the library director are very cognizant and mindful of that balancing, and rather conservative about just protecting what would be essential, having, books and programming, having staff being paid for, etc. So that's all in the mix. And we're just not saying, oh, we want this, we want that, we want this, we want that. I wish we could, but that's not possible.
Thank you. Ms. Mendenhall.
Sure. I mean, so a lot of the initiatives that were in the end of the strategic plan were sort of ranked right in terms of kind of cost and impact. And so I think when you have and so then I think obviously the library is also hopefully it's a perpetual institution. It's going to be around for a very long time. So I think it's just not a matter of, if you can do all of those things, but when you can do all of those things. And so I think it would just, be sort of reprioritizing and having just a, great detailed view of, what is sort of the ROI of certain investments that you can make. What are the highest, what are the things that you need to do? What are the things that you want to do? But could maybe are not as crucial in the near term. So I would say it's just, maybe taking a fresh eye to some of those priorities and just, maybe putting them in the proper order.
Thank you. Ms. Putziger.
I agree. I think you would have to reanalyze all the projects and hopes and dreams that the library wants to accomplish and drill down to the core mission. And as you start to pare back, you would have to just keep in mind what the core mission is. And again, at the Cohasset Historical Society, we struggle with this daily in how to accomplish our mission with very little funds. So I would just say it would be concentrating on the core mission.
Thank you. Mr. Viteri.
We have support, right? We have the capital group, and then we have the Friends of the Cohasset Library. The Friends of the Library are supposed to help with our programming. And every year they go out for fundraising. And I think Elaine mentioned it earlier about the team that's in place, Bronwyn and her team, and kind of the strides that they've made in improving the experience and improving this community. I don't think it's an accident. I don't think it's luck that the Friends of the Cohasset Library are seeing bigger donations. I think it's staying the course. Listen, by the way, I'm not the risk guy. I'm the marketing guy, remember? So you got to balance me out. But I think that's the goal, is to continue pushing for, I mentioned the celebrity factor. I mentioned some of the players that are in. We have a really good staff right now. We have a really good group of folks. We have to continue funding them, keeping them happy, retaining the talent, because they're the ones that are building this experience. And again, it goes back to people and experiences. And I think as we continue to put great programming out there, we continue to do great people experiences, our partners who do the fundraising component of it will continue to raise additional funds, because it's so important to the community. And that in turn will protect us in case we see a shortfall in funding from the government. That's the theory anyway. So I want to play offense. But there's also got to be a team that is ready to play defense in case it doesn't work out that way. But I think we've got to continue funding the things that are working, and that is, in my mind, it's about great programming and great staff.
Great. Take a breath. Get one more question, and it's not related to plan.
Yes.
So our last question for you is: there are 9 members of the Board of Trustees, as we've said previously. Please describe your working style. How do you see yourself fitting into a leadership group that is relatively large? And Ms. Mendenhall?
I At work, I will say we often have many large projects that are going on that we have a lot of people working on that are really important to the mission of the company, and not everyone always agrees. And so, and I will also say that, having worked in business for my whole career, but also in business school, I think, one of the things that they really drill into you, and I wish they did it for my kids more, sometimes you do have to do a lot of projects in groups, right? And not everyone is always going to agree. And sometimes you're sort of randomly put with people, but you just have to make it work. And so I think I'm the type of person who, it is not my style to, I try to cooperate with people. We have a saying at work, actually, you can disagree without being disagreeable. And I think, everyone on this board, the great thing is, right, people are here because they want to be, right, and because they love the library. And so I think because, you have that sort of shared goal and the desire to have great outcomes for the library, I think puts everyone on a great footing to be able to work together. But again, I think, just having respect for each other, having respect for the institution, and again, doing what you can to compromise where necessary is crucial to good outcomes.
Thank you. Ms. Plutziger.
So I would say that the way I work in big groups is to be probably more of a listener or a ponderer. I don't really see myself as a fantastic leader particularly, but I can take in a lot of information and come up with an opinion. And once I have my opinion, I'm fairly resolute with enacting it or seeing it through. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Viteri.
So the first meeting with the board, I remember walking into the room kind of being scared. I really didn't know many of the members, and I was like, I don't really, I was kind of, well, I've been in town now for almost 8 years, and so still kind of a newbie to town, and it felt a little bit intimidating. And I will tell you that I think it breaks out that way. I think there's if you kind of start reading the room and realizing what people's strengths are, and what people's weaknesses are, and how we can utilize those strengths and weaknesses. And so there are times where I'm sure they want me to just stop talking because I just talk a lot. But there's also a lot of times where I think the ideation and the creativity is fun. I think there's a balance that needs to happen. So anyway, in my business experience, I'm particularly good at strategy sprints, and I'm pretty good at navigating complex organizations. And this isn't that complex. I think it's just a matter of just respect for each other. I think all the things you guys have already said, it's really kind of, and not overstepping. And if I'm not, if I'm not passionate, or if I'm not particularly knowledgeable on a topic, I will just hold my tongue. And if there's parts where I feel passionate about, I will speak my mind. And we'll, find, and I think the hardest thing, or our role is to be supportive of Bronwyn and making sure that she accomplishes what she needs to accomplish. How can we help her do her job, and how can we and what is the plan to get there? So that's ultimately what we have to do. So, I'll stop talking now.
Thank you. Ms. Bresla.
So I have held several leadership positions, and an important lesson I learned early on was, as a leader, you never ask someone else to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. And when we are in a trustee meeting, I have to say we practice what we preach, which is to say every opinion, every idea is welcome, every idea is listened to, and then there's an evaluation process. I am not, as can't tell, a timid mouse. However, I've really come to trust and respect the opinions of those people in the room and different life experiences. And that's what I think a good leader does. 9 people is not a lot of people. But the good thing is not everybody agrees all the time. And that's a good thing. If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to find another room. So it's wonderful. And I don't think anyone, maybe initially one might feel intimidated, but I think quickly that dissipates.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We are now going to move on to closing statements. You have 1 minute for your closing statement. Again, check out our lovely ladies in the front row who will keep you on target. So with that, we will begin the closing statements with you, Ms. Putsey.
I knew you were
See that?
It would be a profound honor for me to be on the Library Board of Trustees. It is a place and an institution that has been the framework of my childhood, my young adulthood, and then repeated with my own children and their education, especially their summer experiences with the stars there. It's just a place and an institution that I would dearly like to participate in.
Thank you. Mr. Lettieri.
I really had a great time over the past 3 years on the board. I get to know my fellow trustees. I get to know the staff at the library. It's great, and I would love to. I would love your vote. I'd love the vote of confidence to stay on. I also think that the 3 women up here are incredibly passionate and knowledgeable and worthy of the role. So vote however you want to vote. You're in good hands. I do think it's a great place with continued potential and opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Breslau.
So I don't take lightly that, and it is really such a privilege to be finding myself in this town that values the library as it does. And there's really something for everyone there. There's a lot of work that continues to be needed to do as things move slowly, as I mentioned earlier. But I think with the superlative library staff and the current director, I think that our job is to help them facilitate what's possible, and at the same time working within the realities of the financial fiscal responsibility of what's practical. Thanks.
Thank you. And we will close out with you, Ms. Nemsal.
Great. So, I hope I conveyed just my love for the library and how excited I would be to be on one of the trustees of the library. The Cohasset Library, like all libraries, are hubs of information, innovation, and inclusivity. And so I think we're so lucky to have a great one in town. I think our town is so lucky to have so many, more people than spots for trustees. And so I would be honored to be able to serve. Otherwise, I'll find other ways to be able to contribute. But I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope to get your vote.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you just to sit here while we close things out, if you don't mind. But I would like to give a round of applause to these candidates. So in closing, I would like to thank all of the candidates who showed up tonight and for their participation in the democratic process here in Cohasset. And I also want to thank the Hingham League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event. These are wonderful educational events that the League is known for, and it's important to get the information out there. Please remember to vote on Saturday, May 17th. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Please encourage your neighbors to vote. If your neighbor needs a ride, say, come with me. You giving out I voted stickers?
Of course.
So there is a prize. You get an I voted sticker after you vote. There's a little incentive there. If you will be away for the election, or you got called into work, or you're going to get called into work because you got a project, you can vote by mail. Applications are available online at the town clerk's website, or you can call the town clerk's office at 781-383-4100, extension 5105. All applications must be submitted to the town clerk's office by the 12th of May. So they need to get in there for the mail-in voting. You can also vote absentee ballot at the town clerk's office in person from May 12th to May 16th during regular business hours. Caveat being, absentee ballot voting ends at noon on May 16th, the day before the election. So keep that in mind if you need to do that. Voter registration deadline, although I don't think anybody who's here with us tonight is not registered to vote. If you are unsure about your registration to vote, go to the state's website, check it, make sure that you in fact are registered to vote, something fluky didn't happen, and that deadline is May 2nd. You are required to register to vote 10 days before business days. It gets a little complicated, but you can do that online also. So again, thank you very much for everybody for attending, participating, and as I close every forum out that I do, democracy is not a spectator sport. So thank you very much.